Welkom, mijn naam is Ruben en hierdie is the Ruby Tuesday. Okay, we're talking about Netflix's new original series, well, Afrikaans South African series with 6 episodes called Ludik. I'm here to talk about it, non-spoiler, but I will be giving kind of some personal insight as to growing up in South Africa and how much they managed to hit the nail on the head. Let's jump in. To save a kidnapped family, an enterprising furniture tycoon must use his secret diamond smuggling operation to transport guns across the border. So when you watch this series or you're watching a trailer, you'll probably recognize an actor and going, I know that guy from somewhere. Where do I know him from? You've probably seen him as the protagonist or the bad guy, the mummy. That's probably where you're going to recognize him from. There are obviously a few other actors that some from the continent of Africa or South Africa specifically you'll know. But outside of that, in the UK and the US, you'll probably be like, hey, these are pretty cool, good actors from first-time unknowns to you. However, there is for me an outstanding actor in this series, which I'll be talking about later. And if you want to know a personal connection that I have, I'll be talking about that in the podcast I do with Movies and Munchies on Sundays. I believe that releases. If you check out our podcast, it's called The Best Thing We Watched. The best thing I can do to compare it to another series is The Ozarks. Now, I'm not saying it is as good as The Ozark, because in my opinion, The Ozark is one of the best dramas ever written, acted, performed. It's one of the benchmarks that we set against really great dramas. At least on Netflix, on Apple TV series and HBO. There are a few others that I would also use as a benchmark as to what makes a good drama. Tight scripting, well-performed acting, camera work, all of the things that keep you engaged, that make you come back episode after episode, even though what you're watching is really tense, traumatic, and hard to watch at times, which is what you get here in this season. So we have a juxtaposition in timeline. 1979 is where we see our main protagonist encounter a family in turmoil. The pastor, dad, which I can relate to, living in Pretoria in South Africa in the 1979 was very dad-centric. The man of the house, his word is law. If you disobey him, then you get disciplined and hidings. I know all of that very well. And then there's the culture as well. There is no place for emotion for men. You just have to be a man, a manly man. And that is the culture that is very much evident and real. I experienced that day in, day out. I'm not saying that my parents were terrible. I had great parents, but there were things that I had to work through later on in life coming out of South Africa and some of those culture specific issues. So when I was watching this series, I was like, damn, they hit the nail on the head, especially with the in and outs of the Afrikaans language and English. If you think, is that something that they really do? Yeah, in South Africa, there are multiple national languages like you would get in England with the accents mingling. Whichever kind of province you are in, you get those different accents. But in Africa, there's, I think just in South Africa, there's like 23 national languages. I'm not even going to begin to try and figure out which ones are relevant now because it's been a while since I've been, but I did grow up and spend a lot of time there. So while watching that, brought back a lot of interesting memories, some good, some bad, but I do think they nailed it on the head. They got that presence that they were looking for. So when you get to those emotional bits of the juxtaposition of the timeline that is now, it really has set up that kind of mood and understanding as to why this young man that we follow, he plays Dan Ludik, what he becomes later on in life and how he reacts with his own family, how money becomes the thing that can protect him, how power is the driving force in his life because of those relationships that he's had in his life. So the story is very compelling. It's very tense. You get those classics, people just betraying each other in one episode to the next episode. Whoever holds the keys to the kingdom, sort of like Game of Thrones, whoever holds the throne is the one that's in power. And when that's taken away from certain people, how they react, we see that time and time again, and how that affects personal family life as well. So we go through those two timelines in juxtapositions next to each other. There is a completion in a certain arc, but the major arc is still going to go. It feels like they have many series to work through a big story. They could keep going for as long as there is an audience. There are moments in this series where the acting is so good, you feel exactly what they're going through, but you don't want to. There's a particular actor, Rob Van Vuuren. He, for me, steals the show away from Arnold Vosloo. I thought he really nailed the character that he was playing here, a guy in turmoil, the brother-in-law that is meant to be looking after the brother, but because of stuff that has happened again in the past, of the way he was brought up, alcohol has been the thing that he uses as a crux to forget about life in the past. And I think the cinematography is great, the score is great. Every moment that you are watching this, even when it's calm, you're wondering what's going to happen, because the tenseness, the way it's crafted together, the episode kind of has this mood and tone that you know that poo is always going to hit the fan, but you don't quite know when it's going to hit. I think there are multiple stories and arcs that veer off at one point or another. They send out a van to go and collect merchandise, and that goes wrong. They, you know, deal with something that's going on in school. You have these small little tangents that kind of veer off away from each other, but it's always part of the main arc. No separate storylines. There's more like this is all part of the main story, and every little bit that you see going on is part of that main arc, which I think is very cleverly done, because then you never really feel that you're far away from the story that's going on, the driving force behind that story. I do feel that there are some dialogue moments that feel cringy, that weren't quite as good or as polished, or the delivery wasn't quite as good. Sometimes there's just a line of delivery that just didn't feel right or felt out of place. There are moments like that, but that is pretty much my only negativity, which is amazing considering the amount of poo I've watched this week from big budget cinema releases, Amazon and Netflix big budget releases that were just awful with AAA list stars. I'm quite proud of South Africa for releasing a series like this. I don't want to hype it up too much so that when you go into it and you're like, what is Ruben talking about? I recently reviewed another South African film on my channel. I realized I was probably too close to it. I was just happy seeing home and watching it with my wife a second time that it's really not that good. This one, I hope you believe me and you check it out. At least check on the first episode, because I think you'll find a lot of meat within that first episode. It'll grip you like the Ozark gripped me. Let me know your thoughts. Are you going to give this a watch? I would rate this 4 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
Am I getting through to you?
Maybe I'm too close to it because I did grow up there and it meant a lot to me. That some of the costume design just hit the nail on the head. They say TIA, you know, whatever happens in South Africa, well, whatever happens in Africa stays in Africa. And it does kind of show an accurate light of some of that lifestyle. Let me know what you thought. I thought it was really interesting. It was not a fun watch, it was an intense watch and brought back some interesting memories for me. Let me know your thoughts down below. Here are another 2 reviews. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.